Hey guys, what's up? I'm back with another video, and today just wanted to talk about the individual, uh, and more specifically understanding ourselves as individuals, as people. Um, I think this is very important, and so I'm making this video because I think it's really important that we really understand ourselves so that we can understand one another. As I've said time and time again, one of my reasons for making these videos is so that people can better understand themselves, so that they can grow into better people, understand themselves, and then ultimately understand others so that we can have a better life, and then we can, have better relationships with people, and just overall live a more fulfilled life. So I'm going to be talking about the individual, and yeah, as you can see, I've got this yin and yang symbol right here. And if you don't know what yin and yang is, it's Chinese philosophy, where it's basically that it's a duality. Good and evil, negative, positive, they're all connected. It's all connected. Even though they're opposites, everything is connected in some way. So I just thought this would be a good idea, to a good representation of what I'm going to be talking about. The human being, the individual, and understanding that no man is perfect. And that each man, is capable of good as well as evil. And so I'm going to be talking about this because, everybody's trying to be, perfect and, outshine one another and be more than what they are, basically. Everybody's trying to, be a good person in some way or form, right? And we're always pointing our fingers at one another, about how we're better than this person or that person. And what I've really noticed, as I've grown up, as I've went through life, what I've noticed more than anything else is that, at the end of the day, nobody's perfect. Nobody. I don't care who they are. I don't care, they may be your role model. They may be somebody you look up to, but at the end of the day, we're all flawed. And that's just the truth, and it's a harsh truth, but it's the truth. Nobody's perfect. We're all flawed, and we're all humans, and we're all capable of doing some terrible stuff. We're all capable of it. I mean, after all, we all have a choice, right? So if we all have a choice, we can choose what we do with that choice. So that's what this is all about. The individual, the good, the bad, and the ugly, basically. Understanding the good, the bad, and the ugly. Understanding yourself, so that we can better understand each other. And how do we go about doing that? Well, we understand that we all have a choice. So the foundation of anything, the foundation of personal growth is choice. You know what I mean? You have to choose to, develop yourself, right? You have to choose to take interest in that. You have to choose to take interest in anything. You have to choose to do anything, right? Everything starts with choice. Choice is everything, right? And we can use that choice for good or evil. We can use that choice for a positive outcome or a negative outcome. It's like a gun itself is not the problem, but rather it's the person who wields the gun. Then it becomes a problem. So it's more so to do about choice than anything else. Choice is everything. And if we understand choice, then we actually empower ourselves. We empower the individual. And as we empower the individual, we will become stronger collectively as humans, as people, as a race. That's just a fact. But we need to understand ourselves, and we need to understand that we're not perfect. We're flawed, and that's good. That's a good thing. And so that's why I'm making this video, because I think it's extremely important. And so what I've noticed, I've always tried to, be perfect when I was growing up. I've always tried to do the right thing, and, basically, live up to expectations, to what my family had expected me, to what people had expected of me. But what I realized is that at the end of the day, I just couldn't. One is that I had to find my own identity, and I had to find out what was valuable to me and not valuable to, say, others. I had to find out what I stood for. I had to find out what I believed in, if that makes sense. And two, I understood that everybody has their own standard or their own, idea of what is right and what is wrong. It's all subjective. What is good and bad? What is good and what is bad? Who makes the rules? What is what is good and evil? Right? It's cool. It's okay to hunt animals, to kill animals for food, but it's not okay to, hunt humans, right? Kill humans. So it's okay to kill an animal, or so we've been raised to believe. It's okay to kill an animal, but it's not okay to kill a human. So it does make you think, like, what is good and what is bad? And it's somewhat subjective. It is subjective. I mean, we have entire wars going on where, people kill each other over what they believe to be good or bad, or over what's going to benefit them, for example, right? So it all comes from choice. We need to understand that we're not perfect because we have freedom of choice. And if we have freedom of choice, we can do anything. Quite literally, anything is possible because we have a choice. And if we have a choice, we have freedom of choice, then we can do anything. That's why murder happens. That's why rape happens. That's why these things happen, because people have the choice to do these things. And we like to believe that we're not capable of bad or evil or something that's considered, cool. But the reality is we are. Everybody's capable of it, and people need to accept that fact. I'm so tired of people pointing fingers at one another and acting like they're better than others because they don't do this, they don't do that, they don't do certain things that would be deemed unacceptable or corrupt or evil. But the reality of it is that none of us are perfect. We're all flawed. And we all make mistakes. I know I have. I've made tons of mistakes. I have tons of fears and worries. I have tons of things I hate and dislike. But I also have, love, and I also have courage to face those fears and to rise above them and to make wise choices. So it's all about balance. It's understanding that, you need pride in yourself in as much as you need humility in yourself. And so many people, they lean towards one or the other. This is where people get it wrong. They lean towards one or the other. They tell you to be nice. They tell you to be a good person. But what they don't realize is that if you're just nice or if you're a good person, then people are going to walk all over you. You're not going to last long. The world is not nice, so you can't be nice. All right, but then on the other side, if you're just treating people bad, if you're just treating people being a jerk and, just caring about yourself, well, then you're not going to have any friends. Nobody's going to support you and you're going to live a lonely life. That sucks. So it's not about one or the other. It's having a balance between the two. And that's what we need to realize in life. Is so many people, they try to lean towards one aspect of something without taking into account the opposite. And if you can combine both, well, then you become a more balanced person. So it's not just enough to be humble. It's also important that you respect yourself and that you take pride in yourself as well. So you need enough humility. You need enough confidence to hold your head up high, and enough humility not to look down on others. So you have to have the humility and understand that I'm really not all that. I'm really no different than from anyone else. But you also have to have the self-respect to realize your accomplishments and to realize what you've done and to respect yourself for that. Make sense? But you don't hold yourself above others because you understand that you're just a human being with an individual choice. And if you could get those results you got through the choices you made, then someone else could. So it's about understanding yourself. And I guess the first thing is to understand yourself is to understand that we're not perfect. Stop trying to be perfect. Stop pointing fingers at everybody. Can we just stop this? You know, nobody's right and nobody's wrong. Nobody's perfect. And the sooner we accept that, the better. Everyone is flawed. Everyone makes mistakes. And we all have made mistakes, and we judge ourselves for it. We tear ourselves apart for it. Right? We beat ourselves over the head because of mistakes we made in the past. But what you have to realize is that you cannot change the past. You can only change the future and what happens now. We don't have yesterday, but we do have today. So we have to make a better today than yesterday. The past is done away with, but the future is now. The future is not tomorrow. The future is now. The future is today. So what are we going to do with today? And what we can do with today is we can learn from our mistakes. We can learn from our failures, because failure becomes wisdom. You know, as someone really smart said to me, failure becomes wisdom. So, you know, by failing, we gain wisdom to succeed. And this is true. Like, for example, if you're riding a bike, you know, you don't get it right the first time. Eventually, you know, you keep failing, and then eventually you're able to ride the bike without help, without assistance, without following, and without training wheels. But in order to get to that point, you've got to be willing to learn. And so that's what personal growth is all about. Personal growth is all about learning. It's all about growing. It's all about failing and then gaining the wisdom you need to succeed and to become better, to become stronger, to be more than what you currently are, because you realize you haven't reached your full potential. You realize you're not everything you could be. You have flaws, you have weaknesses, and you could be way better. You could be way better. And you don't know how far you could go. You don't know where your limits are at. And so for that reason alone, that's worth respecting yourself for. Because it's not about who we were, it's about who we choose to become. Because we are not what has happened to us, you know, and I know some very cruel things have happened to some of us. But the reality is that we are not what has happened to us. We are what we choose to become, because it's our choice at the end of the day. And so we can rise above things that happen in life, circumstances that happen in life that can try to make us a victim, or, you know, situations that and circumstances that can try to make us lay down in guilt over things we've done, or we can rise above those things and be better than them. And so we have to choose to learn from those mistakes and learn from those situations and be better now, so we can have a better tomorrow, a better future. So, you know, it's all about It's all about understanding that we're not perfect. Nobody is. And I really wish we would stop pointing our fingers at one another, and also stop holding ourselves so proudly as if we're better than someone else, because we're really not. I mean, you take away our wealth, our fame, all of that away, our power, our social status. We're just a human being with the same needs, the same desires as anyone else. We all need the same stuff, and we all want the same thing. So we're really not better. We all have the same needs underneath, the same desires underneath. We're the same. You know, so stop with all this vanity, and see the bigger picture. The reality is, you know, we're not really better than anyone else. We're not, because we're all, you know, we all need the same things. We all desire the same things, and we can all have them through the choices we make. Because if all mankind has a choice, then all mankind can make that same choice to get the same result. It's just like drinking water. If you drink a water, if you're thirsty, for example, you know, you're not going to sit there and just be thirsty. You're going to go and drink the water. You're going to choose to make a choice and go drink some water, or go eat food if you're hungry. Everything starts with choice, and we don't even realize we do it in our daily lives to survive. That we can do the same thing. We can make the same choices to thrive. And so the individual, understanding that we're not perfect, you know, this is something extremely important. And also understanding that just because someone is different than you does not mean that you're better than them, or that the other person is weird. Because what you have to understand is that we are all different. We are all different. We all have different personality types. We all have different ways of going about things. And that's a good thing, because if we were all the same, then there would be no diversity, right? We need diversity. We need people who are different, so that we can get different results, and so that we can see things that we would have not otherwise seen. We need to see the entire piece, the entire puzzle, and not just a piece of it. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is we have to, you know, have diversity. People have to be different. But just because they're different doesn't mean that one group is better than the other. Each person has strengths and weaknesses. And also, people need to really understand that people are legitimately different to the core. Like, their nature itself could be different, because I am a believer in personality types. I do believe that there are different personality types. You know, like if you were, the people are different. Like, not everybody is the same. Not everybody has the same makeup as a person. And some personality types are less common than others. But that doesn't mean that they're less useful, or you know, something's wrong with them. It's just that they're not as common as certain people. And I am a believer in that. If you guys want to find out more about personality types, just look up, you know, Myers-Briggs personality test, or stuff like that. Even though most of the information out there can kind of be misguiding, and I maintain a lot of people don't know what they're talking about. But, you know, it is something that is credible, and that, yes, people are different. We are not the same. And so if we're all different, then we have to understand that. We have to understand the fact that, you know, we have these differences between each other. And so the power of the individual, understanding that it's not about good and bad. It's not about that. It's not about, you know, leaning towards one side or the other. It's not all about being all humble and nice. The world is not nice. The world will eat you up and spit you out. Don't be nice. But you don't want to be a jerk either. or you don't want to be a tyrant either, right? Or something. You don't want to bring more problems. You want to, solve problems. And so you have to understand the balance. Life is more about a balance between things, not leaning towards one side or the other. It's not about that. Because if you lean too much towards one side, then you get off balance and the weights are no longer equal, right? Kind of like an equation. You have to take into account both sides. You have to respect yourself, take pride in yourself, and as much as you have to have humility. You have to do both of those. And you have to acknowledge that, you are not perfect. You are capable of good in as much as you are capable of evil. And you have to respect yourself for that. And you have to respect other people for that. Like, I'm not the person to, be like, oh, I love my friends and families. I love my friends and family. They can never betray me. They're perfect. They're good people. And while that may be true, friends and family, they could be good people. They could care about you. But at the same time, I understand that nobody is perfect. And even they are capable of betraying me. Even they are capable of doing some horrendous things. And so I go into any relationship understanding that. I understand that this is a person too, and I have no idea what they're thinking. I mean, we do realize that we have no idea what other people are thinking, right? They could be thinking anything. That's why trust itself is a gamble, because you have no idea what the other person is thinking. So you have to make a gamble and say, hey, I'm going to trust this person. But you have to understand that we don't know what other people are thinking. We have no idea. And you have to respect people not as, black and white. People try to judge things black and white and see, oh, this is a good person or this is a bad person. It's not that simple. It's not that simple. And it's not about that. It's understanding that this person is capable of good and as much as they are capable of evil. And I really mean that. Every person I come in contact with. And I understand that. So when things happen, when things don't go my way, or people disappoint me, I'm less shocked by it because I was already expecting it. Because at the end of the day, we all make mistakes, even our loved ones, even our family, even our friends. There'll come a time where they'll make mistakes. And you're going to have to forgive them. And there'll come a time where you'll make mistakes and you will have to forgive them. But see, that's the point. By understanding that no man is perfect, by understanding that we're all flawed, we're less likely to hold grudges against one another. Because if we understand that we all make mistakes, then we can easily forgive one another. It's like, what gives you the right to hold a grudge when you yourself have not been perfect? And this right here is really eye-opening because, some things got under my skin. Some things really got under my skin about certain people. And it's so easy for me to, try to hold a grudge against that person or people. But I have to understand, you yourself have not been perfect. You yourself have not been the best person. So what gives you the right to hold a grudge against someone else? I mean, look at yourself. You're not, some white knight in shining armor. You're not perfect either. Your hands aren't clean. So if you're going to hold a grudge against someone else, then at least examine yourself. And so that's the point. It's like we're pointing the fingers at one another and this and that, but we need to understand that, I'm not perfect either, and I fully admit to that. This whole thing about, good and bad and all of this stuff, it's a waste of time. And I think by understanding that, yo, we're not perfect, by understanding that it's easier to forgive others, because it's like we make mistakes and we're capable of good and we're capable of evil. Even our loved ones, they're human beings. They're human beings. Everybody's trying to survive. Everybody's trying to thrive. And things can happen. And they will happen. That's just the reality of the situation. They will happen. But when they happen, understand that no man is perfect. You know, especially like when we're kids, we tend to idolize our parents. We tend to see them as special, as the people having all the answers and having it together. But as we grow older, we start to realize that they're not perfect and that they make mistakes. And it's a hard process to go through, because you realize that the people you looked up to are flawed and they don't have all the answers and they really don't know as much as you. So you have to understand that. You know, when this happens, you have to understand it for what it is, and that everyone is flawed. Nobody has all the answers, and that nobody is perfect. And you know, even the best man is flawed. Even the good man is flawed, and that's just the truth. So when things like this happen, it's easier to forgive. It's easier to let go. And you know, it just, you know, for example, but yeah, it's just, so what do you take away from this? It's understanding that life is not about one side of the equation. Life is about balance. Life is about both sides. Life is not about good and bad. Life is about both. And you can't lean towards one more than the other. You have to have a balance. A balance between pride in oneself and humility in oneself. A balance between light and darkness. A balance. There has to be a balance. Because if there is no balance, then things are out of proportion. And if things are out of proportion, you're usually going to have a problem. If you don't have enough self-respect, then you're going to be a pushover. People are going to walk all over you. If you don't have enough humility, then you know you're just going to be a jerk, and you're not going to have many friends, and you're not going to accomplish as much, because you can accomplish way more by working with others. So you have to have a balance between the two. And I believe this to be true. I believe that life is more about balance than it is about leaning towards, say, good or evil, good or bad. Because even our negative emotions are useful in certain situations. For example, anger is there to let us know that something is wrong, that something done was not okay. If we didn't have anger, then we wouldn't know these things. We wouldn't know what to look out for. We wouldn't know that something is out of place. But we do, because we can feel anger or hate or fear. These emotions are necessary in their own right. And so we shouldn't be trying to escape these things. Rather, we should be trying to, you know, utilize them to have a better life. A more complete life, if that makes sense. So it's about understanding the balance. It's about understanding the balance that, you know, there's positive emotions in us, there's negative emotions in us, there's goodness in us, there's evil in us, but it all depends on the choices we make. It's our choice at the end of the day. And the reason why, you know, these things exist is because we have a choice. We have a choice, and we can make any choice. We all have a choice. Any choice we want to make, we can make. And that's just the truth. The thing is, we can use our choices to give ourselves a desirable outcome. a positive outcome, because I think we all can agree we want a positive outcome. So it's about understanding that balance, the balance between pride and humility, understanding the choice, and also understanding others, that we're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. We understand ourselves, and because we understand ourselves, we understand others as well. Even the best man is flawed. Even the best of us are flawed. And people will make mistakes, but that's part of having relationships. And it helps us to be more forgiving of these things, because if we understand one another, then we're easier to forgive one another. And the problem with society today is that we're so focused on status and hierarchies, and thinking that and elites, and thinking that one class is better than the other, that we don't see the simple truth right in front of us. And that simple truth is that we are all human beings with the same needs and desires, and we are all flawed. And if we are all flawed, then who can hold the finger and be the judge? Who can be the judge when all humanity is flawed? No one can. So instead of judging one another, maybe we should just focus on forgiving one another and being the best we can be for today, because that's all we have. All we have is now. We can't change what happened yesterday, but we can change what happens today. And then honestly, if you think about it, taking revenge really doesn't solve the issue. If anything, it just continues. It continues to go on and on. Like it never stops, basically. For example, like a war, for example, between nations. But yeah, it's like it never really stops. Revenge, like once it starts, you get revenge, and then the other guy just wants to get revenge back at you. And so it just continues and continues and continues, and it's just this cycle. But nothing never really changes. I'm talking all about forgiveness and things, and I understand. There are times where forgiveness is hard to come by. Even so, I do think it's still good to forgive. But there are times where, say, you need to separate yourself from people. If you're not compatible with them, then just accept that. Accept the fact that I'm not compatible with everybody. I'm human. And we're not perfect. We have different ways of going about things. We have, we have different viewpoints about things. It's not necessarily that we're bad people. It's not necessarily that this person is a bad person or that I'm a bad person. It's just that we're different. And it's better for both of us if we part ways. If we part ways and live our own lives. Why can't we get to that level of understanding, to where we're not judging each other and trying to, puff ourselves up and have more self-worth than one another? Why can't we get to the point where we understand that, we're all human and we're not going to be compatible with everyone? And so can we have enough maturity to accept that fact and to find people who we are compatible with, and understand that just because we're not compatible with someone does not mean that that person is bad, or that that person is weird, or that we're weird or bad. It's just that we're not compatible with everyone because we have different points of view. And if we have different points of view, then that means that everybody is different. Everybody has a different personality. And you have to respect that. You have to respect the individual. Stop disrespecting the individual. Stop doing it. Stop disrespecting the individual. Respect the individual. Respect them as a sovereign human being. Respect them as a person with their own viewpoint, their own philosophy, their own way of doing things, their own way of life. Respect them as such. And if you can respect them as such, then you understand, okay, I respect you, you respect me. It's not working out between us. Let's separate. Not because you're a bad person, because our goals are not in line with one another. Your goals are different from mine. So we need to part ways and find somebody else, find another partner. That's why can't we get to that point? You know, but yeah, I just really wanted to talk about this because I thought it'd be cool. Just understanding ourselves and others, so that we can live a more fulfilled life. And then understanding that we will make mistakes. We've made mistakes and we will continue to make mistakes. And that's just the way it is. But to embrace that, to accept that, because failure becomes wisdom. And then understand that our negative emotions are not, all bad. They can be used for solving problems, and then understanding that we've all made mistakes. So what gives us the right to point the finger at one another? What gives us the right to be the judge? Maybe we should be the judge over ourselves before we try to be the judge over others. Instead of trying to be the judge over others, let's be the judge over ourselves. And let's grow. Personal growth. That's what personal growth is all about. Personal growth is personal. We get so focused on others that we forget to focus on ourselves. We forget that, we need to get better. We're not everything we could be. We're not perfect. And we try to, put up this persona or this image, this false image of that we're perfect and that we've got it all together and that, we're a good person. But the reality is, if we really have the boldness and the tenacity to look below the surface, we realize that we're not. There's a lot of flaws. There's a lot of flaws down there. There's a lot of ugly. And I wish people would be bold enough and will enough to take off the mask and be willing to see it for what it is. How many people are willing to do that? Not many people. Most people want to feel safe. Most people want to feel like they're a good person. But the sooner we can get past these masks and these barriers that we've placed in our mind, this vanity, the sooner it is we can better understand ourselves and others. Nobody's perfect. Stop trying to be perfect. Stop trying to be good. You're not good. And if you're not good, don't try to judge others as bad. Judge yourself. And I think that's the point. Understanding the individual. Understanding that we're not perfect. And understanding that the negative is necessary in as much as the positive is necessary. How can you understand love if you have never experienced hate? How can you understand hate if you have never experienced love? They kind of go hand in hand. How do you know what joy is if you've never known what sadness is? How do you know what peace is if you've never experienced war? How do you know? How do you know? These things are connected. They're necessary in understanding the bigger picture. And so many people are trying to cut themselves off from these emotions. No. Use these emotions to think. Use these emotions to see the bigger picture. Use these emotions and use this to solve problems, to see the bigger picture. to see what it's really about. You know, there was a time for war and there was a time for peace. There were times and places for everything. And life was not meant to be lived just seeing one side of the coin. You have to see both sides of the coin. You experience the ups and downs. But through those ups and downs and through the good times, you will gain wisdom. And when you have wisdom, you will have the ability to solve more problems. And if you can solve more problems, you can make yourself happier. Not just yourself, you can make everyone happier. Everyone you know. Yeah, so balance. Everything is balance. And really understand that. Like your friends and family, they're not perfect, you know. They're capable of doing some dark stuff. Don't go in like having this mindset that, you can never be betrayed or you can never be screwed over by your friends or family, because they can. They can. And it's actually a lack of respect on your part. I see it as a lack of respect, because you have to respect them enough to know that what they're capable of. If you don't know what somebody's capable of, how can you respect them, right? It's kind of like a parent, creating standards, setting standards for their children, right? And how can that child respect the parent if the child doesn't know what the parent is capable of? So you have to respect your friends and family and see the potential negative sides of them that you don't want to look at, but you need to look at, because if you look at them, you can protect yourself. Not only protect yourself, but you can also protect them. You can protect them. And then I just feel like we need to be real with ourselves, because the more real we are, the better off we'll be. Stop being fake. And I think that's the message I was trying to get across. Stop being fake. Let's be real. Let's call it for what it is. And let's try to make the world a better place, starting with ourselves. Stop pointing the fingers, please. Just stop. And realize that everything is in balance. Good, bad, it's all in balance. And we can utilize the positive and the negative to get a positive result. There you go, I'm done.